So this is the iPhone 12 Pro Max, the best iPhone from 2020. And in 2025, you might be thinking this is, pretty old in the tech world, but I just picked this one up a few days ago, and you won't believe the price. I got this from Back Market for around $350, and honestly for that price it feels like an absolute steal. I mean, just look at it. As you can see, this iPhone now in my hands is pretty much brand new. I've looked it over and I really don't see any lookable scratches at all. It feels premium, which of course raises the big question, can a phone that launched way back in 2020 still deliver a top tier experience today in 2025? Well, in this video, we're gonna find out. We'll talk about what made this phone so special when it was first released, and then we'll dive deep into the design and that big beautiful screen. We'll push its performance to see if it can still hang with modern apps and games. We'll cover the camera system, the all-important battery life, and of course software updates, including what it means that this phone doesn't get Apple Intelligence. Finally, we'll talk about who this phone is actually for in 2025. So if you're thinking of buying one, if you're still using one and wondering if you should upgrade, or if you're just curious how this iPhone holds up, stick around. So what was the big deal with this phone when it first came out? Well, it was all about this design. This was the phone that brought back the flat edges, a look that Apple has basically stuck with for years now. It felt modern and industrial back then, and you know what? It still feels incredibly premium and stylish today. When you hold it, you immediately feel that quality. You've got the surgical grade stainless steel frame, which is cool to the touch, and this textured matte glass back that feels great and resists fingerprints. It's a heavy phone, there's no doubt about it, weighing in at 228 grams, but it's a reassuring kind of weight. It feels solid, substantial, and just really well built. Now those flat edges, they look fantastic, but I will say they can be a little less comfortable to hold for long periods compared to the rounded iPhones that came before it. And speaking of size, this phone was a huge deal when it launched. It was the largest iPhone ever made at the time. Apple went from the 6.5-inch display on the 11 Pro Max and then boosted this one up to a massive 6.7-inch frame. And it seems like Apple just keeps going bigger and bigger because, as you might know, the new iPhone 16 Pro Max is coming in at 6.9 inches, which is just wild. So yeah, with this phone, you feel every millimeter of that 6.7-inch frame. It's definitely not for someone who wants a small one-handed device. And that premium frame surrounds this gorgeous 6.7-inch Super Retina XDR display. It's an OLED panel, which means you get those perfectly deep inky blacks and incredibly vibrant, accurate colors. The resolution is super sharp at 2778 by 120/84 pixels, which works out to 458 pixels per inch, so text and images are crystal clear. It also gets plenty bright, hitting 800 nits in typical use and cranking up to 1200 nits for HDR content. Honestly, for watching videos, looking at photos, or just browsing, it is still a fantastic top-tier screen. But, and here is the single biggest trade-off you make with this phone in 2025, the refresh rate. This is a 60Hz display. Newer Pro iPhones, starting with the 13 Pro, have what Apple calls ProMotion, which is an adaptive refresh rate that goes all the way up to 120 Hz. Now, is it a deal breaker? For some people, yes. If you put this phone side by side with a 120 Hz screen, you can absolutely see the difference. Scrolling through menus or your social media feed just isn't as buttery smooth. However, and this is important, iOS is so well optimized that its 60Hz implementation feels smoother than on many other phones. After a day or two of using it exclusively, your eyes do adjust. For most people, and especially considering the price you're paying, it's a compromise that you can probably live with, but it is, without a doubt, the most dated feature of this phone. Performance-wise, this phone is powered by the A14 Bionic chip, and it's paired with a healthy 6GB of RAM. Now, back in 2020, this chip was the world's first built on a 5nm process, which was a huge deal for power and efficiency. So in 2025, what does that actually mean for you? Well, it means this phone is still fast. For all your day-to-day stuff, scrolling through Instagram, browsing the web, checking emails, switching between apps, it's completely fluid. I've had zero lag, zero stuttering. The 6GB of RAM really helps here as it can keep a good number of apps open in the background without needing to constantly reload them, which makes multitasking feel snappy. But what about heavier tasks? I do a lot of quick video editing on my phone, so I tested it with LumaFusion, which is a really powerful pro-level editing app, and I was genuinely impressed. It handles multiple layers of 4K footage, effects, and color grading surprisingly well. Scrubbing through the timeline is smooth, and export times are still very respectable. For a content creator on the go, this is still a very capable machine. And for gaming, I fired up some demanding titles. A game like Call of Duty Mobile runs flawlessly on high settings. It's a super smooth experience. Look, it runs well on medium to high settings at 60 FPS, but this is where you start to feel the phone's age a little. It gets noticeably warm after about 30 to 60 minutes of play, and if it gets really hot, the screen will automatically dim itself to manage the heat. It's definitely playable and still looks great, but its thermal design just isn't as robust as what you'll find in newer phones. Okay, let's talk about probably the most important and also the most complicated topic for a phone this age: battery life. The iPhone 12 Pro Max has a 3687 mAh battery. When it was new, it was an absolute battery champion. It was known for easily lasting a full day and then some. But in 2025, you're almost certainly buying this phone used or refurbished, and that means the battery experience can be all over the place. It all comes down to one single metric you have to check: battery health. If you get a unit that has, say, 85% battery health, you might find yourself struggling to get through a full day, especially with heavy use. You'll probably be looking for a charger by late afternoon. Looking at user reports online, people get anywhere from a pretty rough 3-4 hours of screen on time with a degraded battery to a much more respectable 5 to 7 hours on a healthier one. But here's the good news: a battery replacement completely changes the game. It's the single best upgrade you can make to this phone. Forum users and reviewers consistently report that after getting a new battery from Apple or a reputable shop, the phone feels brand new again and easily lasts all day, just like it did in 2020. So my advice is simple: when you're shopping, try to find a unit with at least 85% and ideally 90% or more battery health. If you can't, just factor in the cost of a battery replacement into your budget. It is absolutely worth it. As for charging, it's not the super fast charging we see on phones today, but it gets the job done just fine. Now for my favorite part, the cameras. The Pro in the iPhone name has always been about the camera system, and the 12 Pro Max was a really big step up for Apple. You get a triple 12 megapixel system on the back, a standard wide lens, an ultra wide lens, and a 2.5x telephoto lens. What was really special here was the main wide camera. It had a sensor that was 47% larger than the one in the regular iPhone 12 Pro, which lets it capture a lot more light. And it was the very first iPhone to feature sensor shift optical image stabilization. That means the sensor itself actually moves inside the phone to counteract your handshake, which is a technology that comes directly from high-end dedicated mirrorless cameras. So how do the photos look in 2025? Honestly, they're still fantastic, especially for this price. In good daylight, pictures are sharp, they're detailed, and they have that classic natural looking color science that iPhones are known for. The 2.5x telephoto lens is a huge advantage over non-Pro iPhones, and it's great for taking portraits with nice flattering background compression. In low light, that bigger sensor and Apple's night mode really work their magic. It pulls in a surprising amount of light and produces clean, bright, and very usable shots. Now let's be realistic. If you put it side by side with a brand new one, like here, we have the iPhone 15 Pro and 16, you are going to see a difference. The newer phones have even larger sensors, more advanced processing, and they produce cleaner, more detailed photos, especially when you zoom in or in really dark situations. But again, for a phone that costs around $350, this camera system punches way above its weight class. And for video, it's still an absolute beast. It shoots beautiful 4K video at up to 60 frames per second, and it can record in Dolby Vision HDR, which looks incredible on a compatible screen. The stabilization from that sensor shift system is excellent. If you're a content creator or you just shoot a lot of video, this phone is still a top tier choice. Now, one of the biggest reasons to buy an iPhone, even an older one, is Apple's long-term software support. And the 12 Pro Max is a great example of this. It fully supports the latest iOS 18 and newer iOS 26, so you get all of those core new features. Based on Apple's track record, this phone will likely continue to get major iOS updates until at least 2026, maybe even 2027, so you're good to go for a few more years, which is fantastic. Peace of mind! But there is a huge catch with iOS 18. This phone does not get Apple Intelligence. That's Apple's new suite of on-device AI features, and it requires an A14 Bionic chip or newer, which basically means you need an iPhone 15 Pro or any of the iPhone 16 models to use it. So you do miss out on the new smarter Siri, the system-wide writing tools, and the AI image generation features. Now for me, honestly, that's not a deal breaker, and here's why. Apple Intelligence by now is still in its early days. It's like still on beta. I already use more powerful and more mature alternatives like Gemini and ChatGPT on a daily basis for writing help, research, and creative ideas. So while having those features integrated directly into the OS would be nice, I'm not really missing out on core functionality that I can't already get from other apps. For the massive cost saving, it's a trade-off I'm very, very willing to make. So let's wrap this all up. The iPhone 12 Pro Max in 2025 is a story of incredible value that's balanced against a few key but manageable compromises. On one hand, you get a timeless design, truly premium build materials, a fantastic screen, performance that is still great for almost everything, and a killer camera system that holds up remarkably well. The trade-offs: you have to be okay with the 60Hz display, you need to be mindful of the battery health and potentially plan for a replacement, and you won't get access to Apple's latest AI features. So who is this phone for? I think it breaks down into three groups. First, for the value seeker, the person looking to buy one today. If you're looking for the absolute most phone you can possibly get for under $400, this is an incredible choice. It offers a level of build quality and a feature set, especially that telephoto camera that you simply cannot find in any new phone at this price point. Just be smart about it and check that battery health before you buy. Second, for the current user, if you're still rocking an iPhone 12 Pro Max and you're generally happy with it, there is very little reason to upgrade seriously. If your battery is starting to feel weak, spend the money on a replacement, not a whole new phone. It will make it feel brand new again. The only real reasons to upgrade are if you are desperate for that 120Hz ProMotion display or the absolute latest camera technology. And finally, for the user who is on the fence, confused about whether to keep it or upgrade, ask yourself what your biggest frustration is. Is it the battery? Replace it. Is it that the scrolling doesn't feel perfectly smooth? Then yes, upgrading to an iPhone 13 Pro Max or newer will be a huge noticeable improvement for you. Are you a tech enthusiast who just has to have the latest AI features? Then it's probably time to move on. But for everyone else, this phone is still wonderfully, impressively capable. Ultimately, the iPhone 12 Pro Max has aged incredibly gracefully. It's really a testament to Apple's hardware and software philosophy that a phone from 2020 can still be this good, this relevant 5 years later. It's found a new life, not as an aging flagship, but as a king in the refurbished market. But that's just my experience after using it. I'd love to hear from all of you. Are you still using a 12 Pro Max? Are you thinking of buying one? What are your thoughts? Let me know down in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.